Hey gang, this is Fillmore, just letting you know that if you enjoy our podcast, quite frankly, a Howard Stern podcast, and you'd like to donate some money for the upkeep, or you want to request certain clips, please donate to our Patreon page at patreon.com/JimFix. That's JIMFIXX. You can donate as much as you want for as long as you want. There's absolutely no obligation.
Hey, why don't you rub your cock up against the phone? Let me see what kind of noise it makes.
I'm not going to do that.
Just do it. It's a big deal.
Are you gay?
Which Howard are you talking to?
The one who asked that question.
Oh, no. I'm just trying to be entertaining, that's all. I'm not gay. Am I gay? Of course not. I have a wife.
A lot of gay men have wives.
Yeah, but come on. You know me. You know I'm not gay. I'm just asking the guy how big his cock is.
Well, you're asking him to rub it up against the phone.
And all you do is mooch off of people. You do nothing. You're a big homo.
That's not entirely true.
What do you do, really?
I'm bisexual and I don't mooch off everybody.
People are going to be shocked that you put out an exercise and diet book because they don't think of you that way, right? They think about you. But here you are today with is the book out now?
Yep, Formula 50.
Is there a bunch of pictures of you with your shirt off so we can see your muscularity?
Well,
No, I didn't take my shirt off.
Musculature?
We got to have an example.
I want to see your musculature.
This is not about... this is not the Chippendale show, Robin.
Are you very ripped? If you took off your clothes now, you were totally nude. Would I see a man who is in the prime condition?
You have to have him totally nude?
Yeah.
But look,
Would you mind being totally nude right now?
Yeah, I'm not taking my clothes off.
Please.
I was trying to give me a strip in here.
Please, if you
That's one of them girls you bring up here.
Take off your clothes. Take off your shirt. Let me see
I'm
what's
not taking my shirt off.
I want to see if you got titties or not.
Last time I watched the show, I see you had the porn stars up there.
Yeah.
And y'all had the girls in here stripping and stuff like that. I'm like, me? You want to bring me here and make me a
I want you nude right now.
You got to be kidding me, man.
Come on, man.
I'm doing way too good for this kind of shit, Howard.
Look at your ass. You're so muscular.
Do you have muscles in your ass that you'd like to show?
I'm not doing this in a gay way. I just want to, see if you're fat or not. I just want to see. It's not gay.
No,
man. Tip of your balls to the tip of your penis was over 9 inches.
No, right at the
9 inches.
Yeah. Is you making me feel good, man. I thought that, because when you watch porno, those dudes is like a foot.
9 is perfect.
Oh, all right. Well, maybe that's that's the secret. Oh, that's it. Wait, hold on, Robin. Is 9 perfect, Robin?
Perfect.
What does Howard mean by that?
You know exactly what I mean. My daughter's 15. All her friends are like consumed with who's gay and who isn't. Yeah, that's like a big thing.
That's the new thing.
Yeah, right. They think I'm gay.
Yeah.
Everyone's gay.
Welcome, everybody. The Church of QF, a podcast about Howard Stern, is now in session. I can honestly say this is the first time we've interviewed a man of the cloth. Here, for your listening pleasure, is the Reverend Bob Levy. Thank you for joining us, Bob.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here. It's wintertime, it's cold, it's icy outside, and I'm happy to be inside right now with you fine folks.
Sam's, of course, here. She's dressed to kill, and we got loads of questions. So, guys, we're not going to waste any of your time. We're going to go right into it with Bob. Bob, the first thing I wanted to ask you was, you mentioned a long time ago on the show that you worked a bachelor party for the WWE, and you meant Vince and Pat Patterson.
Yeah. Yes, that was, I don't even know what year it is, what year that was, but I got a call from, it was a comedian that owned a club in the Yonkers. What the hell's his name? I'll think of his name and you'll know who I was talking about. But he called, he goes, we got a bachelor party and it's for Shane McMahon. And it's on a boat out of New York City. And it was the weirdest thing because it was like wrestlers, all the back people, and then Shane's friends. And I think I still have the T-shirt. I remember Norton said that he had the T-shirt. Me and Jim Norton went, and it said something like the SSS McMahon, and it was like a life preserver on it. I have to have it somewhere because I knew I wouldn't have thrown it out because I was a big wrestling fan. But it was weird to see Vince there but it was fun. I mean, they really liked me, and I thought, they were like, we can use a guy like you as an announcer and all that shit. And then Pat Patterson was rubbing my leg, I remember, and I was like, this is getting uncomfortable. But it was an experience, you know what I mean? It was really fun.
So how many years at that point had you been doing comedy?
Let me see. I was that might have been right before Stern. So you're saying, I don't mean, it had to be 10 years in, I was really good at it by then, I think I started in 86. So yeah, I was already well into headlining before Stern. And then I think that was right before, and it was probably 97, 98. And, It was just amazing. I expected we're on a boat. There's going to be hookers and shit like that. We're getting blown while we're drinking, but it was nothing like that. And the closest I got to getting laid was when Pat Patterson was rubbing my leg.
So you and Jim must have bonded on because I know Jim was a huge wrestling fan as a kid, and maybe still never stopped being a fan.
Well, Jim Florentine was more of a wrestling fan. Jim used to go to wrestling, and he had some guy who was an old guy on the block that he used to make him sit on his lap and he'd give him a wrestling picture. It's a pretty good story. I mean, it's like a love story.
I've heard the story, and if Jim ever agrees to do our show, I'll let him tell it in full color. But
definitely.
But you made noises like you might have been able to get in as like a heel or like a manager or something. Did you ever get anywhere near getting into the WWF at the time or WWE as like a talker?
Well, that's what they were saying. Like they can use somebody like me on the mic and all that, and they said you should learn how to take falls and that. And I knew my neighbor he had a wrestling place in Jersey. It was called the Monster Factory, and he goes, yeah, just train here. And I trained I did this for like 3 years. I mean, really? But like to get a call back, yeah. I mean, I actually wrestled. I loved it. I had a ball. It was fucking fun, and you get to learn how to do stuff. If you know what you're doing, you're not really going to get hurt, but you can get hurt at any time. People did get fucked up. But it was fun. But like you didn't hear back. Like you'd call up and then you'd get through one time and then you wouldn't get through. And by the end, it was like there's no way. Nobody in this business. It's not a business where they'll say, "Well, we can't use it right now. Maybe down the road." They just don't call you back. Nobody. Yeah. It's like a bitch business. You know what I mean? It's not like what I came from before doing. When I got into comedy and that stuff, it's just like I was shocked how bitchy people are,
If you were to have gotten called for like actual wrestling, I thought you meant wrestling as a pundit, not as an actual wrestler, like Mr. T or whatever, or Hulk Hogan. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean.
But if you would have gotten called, would you have quit comedy for it?
No, I wouldn't have been a wrestler either. I was okay at wrestling. I was better on the mic and all that stuff. And I knew wrestling because I grew up with it, watching it with my grandfather. We started watching it. He lived downstairs in Staten Island. We had like a mother-daughter house, and they had my grandfather and grandmother had the house downstairs. And I used to go down every Saturday night and watch wrestling with him. And he would curse at the TV, thinking it was real. So did I.
So that's a good memory.
You mentioned, Bob, that early on, you sat in on the show early on. Even eventually, you got to a point where you could sit in on the show, not just when Artie wasn't there, but when he was there. Like you'd sit next to him. And then years later, Opie got video of Howard walking through a Sirius building with security following him like he was the Pope. So what was the level of security for Howard at that point? Was he very approachable? Was he, when the show was over, could you just go, hey, Howard, how's it going? What's things,
Yeah, I mean, I never felt like I was told, they would say clear things, but, if Howard walked by, he'd go, hey, what's up? And you go, hey, what's up? You know what I mean? And he'd sit down, like I'd get there early before the show because that's how I am. And he would see me in the green room and he'd go, hey, how you doing, Bob? And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing good, man. I'm excited. And he goes, good, let's have a good show. He was very normal with us, with me for sure, And we got along good. I think he liked my appearances. I liked to be on there. And it was some of the best time I've had in radio him and Kid Chris doing Kid Chris's show was probably the two. I was able to write more on Kid Chris and write for other characters and that. So it was really, those two were the two biggest things that you could want to be on radio at that time for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing was, years later, a lot of people got really disappointed when they found out, of course, that a lot of the bits were fake. Like Chauncey Hayden went on a show and said that the Get John's Job thing was a work, and that Richard was already going to get hired, and that it was just a way of padding out, 10 weeks of, however many weeks people were coming in. And you sat in on the writing meetings from time to time, didn't you?
Time to time, yeah, not that much. If I was still around, but no, not that much. But I knew everything that was going on, and to say that it was set, I mean, truthfully, Richard was probably the best for that job if you look at it, because they needed something different. They already had me. You understand? So it would have been a waste for me to have it. And I kind of knew that. And like, I remember one day they had a band in, I forget what band it was. And he goes, "We can't get to it today." And he goes, "Don't worry about it." And I'm like, "Yeah, it doesn't matter," because it was like, I can't do all the taping that they can do in the office. I can't do all that. So like, when you look at it, like Sal and Richard, it was the perfect thing to have. And, you can push it either way on the air, but I don't really remember him kind of doing that. But I just looked at it as, this is just for me to come up with different ideas, and I can always say, "Hey, I got an idea in the future," and work on it from there. And that's the way I did it. I definitely thought that Richard was the way, and Sal and him, that both of them together was an unbelievable team.
Mm-hmm. Sam?
So there's a theme that's kind of been obvious throughout the Stern show, that basically Howard seems to expect everyone's unlimited time when they start on the show to work as much as possible for as little pay as possible. That's kind of just how it is. And it always seems like people were doing side hustles, and you were a part of helping doing these side hustles for people like a Richard or a Sal or a Shuli. And so obviously the culture was, don't ask for more money because you're not going to get it. So you kind of helped people get some second income as well as your own career and income. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, well, here's the whole thing. Yeah, I totally understand that. Yeah.
So
the whole thing is that when you go, go ahead.
So why do you think that no one on that show asked for more money?
But why? Because you were on the Howard Stern show. Okay, the whole thing was, for me to get on the show was a way for me to make money, not to make money over him, but make money for myself. And that's what you do it for. That's, it wasn't like I had to be there I wasn't hired by him. I was never hired by him. I was there for 8 years or so. But even when I started doing the roast, he said, "We'll pay you for this." And I said, I was like, I sat down with Tim and I go, "I don't want money." I said, "I can make my own." I said, "How about I get 2 plugs a show?" And he went to Howard, and Howard agreed. And I was like, "That's all I need, man. I can make my own money." And when you're on there, as long as you're doing good, you're gonna make money. You're gonna make money on the road. I mean, I was making money before Howard. This made it just a lot more easier. A lot more easier.
You had a follow up, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, I understand for your case. You're a comic first and foremost. You weren't a salaried employee. But for people who were salaried employees, they needed these gigs that you provided as a lifeline to live in New York City, to live, and they couldn't afford to live even where they lived based on the income that they were getting. I mean, they complained about it constantly.
Yeah, and then in fact, I'm right now, Bob. I'm just going to play a clip, and just bear with us because it's a minute clip, but I got to cut it up.
Yeah.
Here at Sirius,
okay, no, that's good.
More money than I do. I know that for a fact. If I had to live,
what's that got to do? Why is he looking in Richard's pocket?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. That does not matter.
That just doesn't matter in any of this.
Off the money I'm making just for what I do for the news, I probably wouldn't be able to live in New York, you know. Yeah. And the comedy's a huge thing for me, but it's such a kick in the face to every comic who's gone through the ranks that this guy A is making more than you are, and B could give a shit about it. Just
that was based on Richard complaining to you, or I think it was to you and Shuley, about what he was getting paid on the road at one point, maybe 2007. And there's loads of clips here, and I'll play another one of Artie just for context, guys, because it's not just it wasn't just the lower ranked guys. Artie was saying if he couldn't make money on the show, he would be bitching, but.
Listen, I've said this before. If I couldn't make the money I make on the road, I might be bitching about money here. But you know what? The fact of the matter is, I choose to do the road a lot and take that schedule because, honestly, out of respect for Howard, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the guy bitching about money.
So there's that aspect of it. And I guess the question we keep asking people, because we just did an interview with Jackie, how does Howard not realize that he's going to get better employees if he pays them more, so they don't have to do so many extra gigs? They'll have more energy for the show.
You know, I just don't know. I really don't think it's, if you look at it, it's not really Howard's job to pay them. It has to go through other people there. You know what I mean? They're the ones that are really paying them, that are paying the people. You know, Howard could say something, but it's up to the people that are paying Howard to go, okay, I'll give you extra money for this in your contract to pay these other people. But I mean, it's not to come out of Howard's money, truthfully. And yeah, the road was huge money. The road was like, if you look at somebody like Artie, the money was huge. I mean, I don't know what his salary was at Howard, but I know it was pretty good. But on the road, if you can you go to Vegas and make 80 to 120,000, you know. Then you go home on Sunday and you go to work again. And then if other gigs he started with me at 15 grand. Then we realized what he was worth, and it kept going up, 25, 30, 35, 45. Right. And then, you know, it was around 50. And then his manager was taking the ideas that I used because they didn't know what to do. They're just sitting at home. Like he said, fat fuck sitting around at his pool while I'm in Chicago with you, driving around in a limousine. He doesn't know what the business is, how to market somebody. He just sells them, you know? I'm
going to interrupt you. And Fillmore, fill in the blanks of what we know about their pay and how they're paid.
Sure. We know for a fact, Bob, because SmokingGun.com has the first Sirius contract. Everybody got their money through Howard's production company. He got the $100 million a year. That was the first, 5 years of the contract. And then he disseminated. In other words, he determined what people were going to get. And so it came out in the Jackie interview that Fred, for example, was making 3 times less than Jackie. And Jackie was making 600, almost 600, 3 times less.
Less.
I thought he was making more. As far as I knew, Fred was right on the Robin and right around Gary. You know what I mean? So for him to be under in Sirius.
Yep. With Jackie's math, he was making 600, just under 600K a year, and that means Fred was making less than 200K in 2000.
2000 was that was not right even when we went to Sirius yet.
That's right. That's right before Sirius.
Yeah, so maybe right before Sirius. Yeah. But in Sirius, he was taken care of very good, as far as I know. And, I mean, Artie was he was making a lot of money there, truthfully. And he was able to probably make 2 times that, 3 times maybe, on the road.
Mm-hmm. The point is with all of this, if he was in control of salaries through his production company, which obviously that's the case, he could have easily paid Artie to not have to go on the road to try to get his act together. Not saying that it's his fault, but there are times where I've heard you say in quotes that it definitely didn't help for Artie's case.
Yeah, but here's another thing. Yeah, but the whole thing is, if we didn't go on the road, we wouldn't have fucking great stories to tell. Okay,
That's so true.
A lot of that turned into a lot of great radio. So you have to look at it like that as a business. That it's like you can't. Okay, there's no way a comic is not going to work. I don't give a shit how much he's paid. He's just going to get more. He's going to go out and get more. It's just the way it is. But he could have paid at the beginning. Yeah, he could have paid. Sal, Shuley, Richard, JD, more money. Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, they could have made more, but there's a way to do it. There's a way to do things. You know what I mean? I've learned this over the years. If you're going to bitch about it, talk to the person. Don't talk to everyone else, because then it gets back and it's like, by the time the story gets back, it could be changed the whole way. And that's happened to me, and I know it has, because I know the way Howard was to me and the way I was to him. So for it to end horribly, there was a lot of people involved in it, and that's just the way it is. It's like in the earlier days, you were able to talk to him more, you know what I mean? Talk about whatever, but then you had to go through this person.
Speaking of people getting in the way, you have a clip, Fillmore, of Gary doing just that.
Well, I have many clips, actually, but the one I was going to play was more in line with what you're talking about, the road stories. So this involves Shuley talking about the crowds you would have.
When I first started this tour, I would get so mad at the audience sometimes because they would just be out of control maniacs. And I'm thinking, what the fuck is wrong with these crowds? And then one day it just hit me. I go, we're putting fucking out of control maniacs on stage. Of course they're going to be fucking out of control in the audience. Yeah. They're just as much as the circus as we are.
And that's what's happening. It takes years off your fucking life. I mean, how can you tell an audience, look, just be quiet and civilized and listen when Beetlejuice is shitting on stage? That's what
So that was going to lead into my question. What was the difference in the kind of crowds you would get when you had the circus, like all the whack packers instead of shows where it was just you and Artie, doing comedy, straight comedy? Was it better, worse, indifferent?
You know what? I can honestly say there wasn't much fucking difference. It was just a bigger place. We did a bigger theater, and they were just loud. They would yell shit. Like, okay, one thing about certain fans is, which you got to love them, because they all think they're Howard. You know what I mean? So they think, oh, you know what I mean? You're the Howard Stern, so you can handle me yelling at you. You know what I mean? And they'll just yell at Baba Booey during the show. They did that with Artie. But like, they were brutal to some comedians, and some of them didn't make it through their time, basically. They were brutal, and I always had a good time with them. And I think at the beginning, Shuley might have felt that way, but no, he loved them afterwards. Everybody loved that audience. There was nothing like it. You know what I mean? When you were on the road, you know what I mean? It was like, you go to town and people see you, they flip out, and then they can't believe you're talking to them, which, I talk to everybody, but it's like, it was a different time, it was like we were rock stars, and we lived like that. And that didn't help. That was probably the main thing, that it was a fucking, we were messes on the road. I mean, you land there, you're like, oh, get done the show, go to sleep, and then Saturday night we'll be ready. Next thing you know, you're up all night. We're partying all fucking night. Then you get a little sleep. You do the show Saturday. You go home. Sunday, you're fucking out of it. Then we had to do Miserable Men. And it just lasts for 2 days after that you come home to be normal, to be a father.
Just one sec.
It just doesn't fucking work.
No, just one sec, Bob. And Sam, you can ask the next question. But in the meantime, I'm going to find another clip that I found that I know Bob's going to laugh his ass off. Just one sec. Okay, road stories with Levy. Okay, let me just find it.
Wash your hands. Right in. And Levy, man, you talk to he goes, we'll make them open a club. And I'm thinking, let's go make them open up. So we make them.
Okay, hold on. I'll cue that up. Basically, I'll go through it. It'll take us like a minute or so to go through it, but it's worth it. Sam, did you want to ask a question first before we go into that?
I think I know this.
Yeah, so you were I'm not a questioner. I just was reading about, and Mark's friggin', he used to go to all of your shows, like especially in the early aughts of like 03, 04, 02. And he said that you had a divorce special in 04. And he wrote that he goes, this was the first time that Artie's drinking was scary at points. Did you ever feel like that way too? Because Mark usually never commented on the drinking, that it was scary, and then all of a sudden he started saying Artie became like, his drinking was scary, and I was like, oh, I wonder.
Well, I mean,
I wonder if the rest of the audience felt that way, or did you feel that way?
Well, you know what? I was probably just as fucked up as he was, and so was the audience.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there was shows. I remember one in South Jersey here. We do a show. I get off stage. I kill. I get off stage and I go, "Where's Artie?" And they go, "He's laying on the floor under the table in the dressing room." And I was like, "You got to get up!" And I got to get up. And I go, "You got to go on stage." He goes, "You go back on." And I'm like, "No, they want to see you now. They already seen me." And he ended up going on stage and destroying. And it was like it was a big they have weddings there too at this place, right? And they had the lights that go on the front table. It was strapped under the table, and there was a guy with a big fluorescent bulb, and he had it in his hand, and he was poking Artie with it. And it was like out of control. And then he was like, "Was somebody on there poking me with a light?" But it was like that. That's how it was, It was the greatest time. The fans had the greatest time ever. And so did we, But we lived it, like I said, like rock stars.
I'm going to let you play the clip, Fillmore. I just had to add one more anecdote that I read that I thought was funny. When you used to travel in a car, I think it was with Norton maybe, or Florentine, and he used to turn the heat up. You would be asleep, and he would turn the heat up really hot, and then you would wake up in a sweat, and you would be mad, and he did it like 4 times, and then you wanted to kill him.
Yeah, that was Florentine, of course. That's one of his tricks.
Okay, good.
And, he would do stuff like that. He would eat eggs. He would eat eggs and bananas. That's all he ate, basically, like eggs and bananas. And then he would let one go, a fart in the car, and then he would lock the windows, and you're gagging because it was like the worst smell ever. And then when we're driving far, he goes, "I got to take a piss." I go, "Well, pull over." He goes, "No, I got a McDonald's cup." And he's like, I go, and he's driving, and he's pissing in a McDonald's cup, right? And then all of a sudden he's like, "Here, hold this for me." And it's like to the top, and he's like, "Hold this for me." I'm like, no. He's like, "You gotta hold it for me. I'm driving. You gotta hold it for me." And then he the bottom just collapsed in it, and the piss went all over his pants. God. So now he took off his pants, and he put them on the dashboard and blasted the defroster. So he basically drove in his hot piss pants smell until his pants dried. And then, I mean, he didn't care if this happened. He didn't care what happened. He just got a new car one time. And we just had breakfast, and I would just eat bacon. I loved bacon. I still do. And I was eating all this bacon, and he's picking his nose, and he's like holding it on his finger. I go, "Dude, I'm going to puke." And he goes, "I don't care. Go ahead." And I puked in his car as he's laughing at his brand new car, because it's not about cleaning it. It's about torturing me at that moment. And it was the most funniest thing ever.
Well, there's one of my favorite stories involves you, Artie, I think, and Florentine, and maybe DePaulo was there in Scranton, Ohio or somewhere. And you went to a fish restaurant, and I guess on the menu they had a chalkboard and it said broiled scrod. So Florentine goes over with the magic marker. He adds a UM, so it says broiled scrotum. So
you see, I don't even remember that one. I don't.
Well, there's one where Artie talked about he was so fucked up. You were on stage doing your set, and he went over and he got you in a headlock, and he said, "Get off stage right now." And I mean,
probably
the stories are legendary. So I'm going to let the baby gorilla have his say for just a few seconds.
The guy open. We're sitting there drinking our Zanies in Vernon Hills by ourselves, and then Levy realizes he doesn't have a clean shirt for the show that night.
Oh boy.
He goes to the guy. He goes, "Hey, is there a Target around here?" And the guy goes, "Yeah, across the street." We go to Target.
You
never saw two bigger losers in your life.
Hold on, I gotta break it up.
Target. At 4 p.m. we got 3. Levy buys this awful, like polyester $3 black shirt. You're getting a rash. He buys the so drunk, yeah, give me the shirt. Thanks. We stumble back. We keep drinking. We drink till like before the show starts. We are awesome.
Hold on.
And the first joke's about Levy like drunkenly changes into the black shirt. He does. And then Levy invites everybody from his message board, George Stern Show fans. Like, I have nothing to see. I got 3 shows to do. They all have nicknames. I go, who's sitting in that seat? There's one seat. He goes, that's One-Eyed Pete. He's, you know. And I'm like, he goes, that's One-Eyed Pete's girlfriend. I'm like, well, tell him to leave.
Okay, bear with us, guys. I'm sorry, this is a long one.
The names are so awful. We're drunk, and Levy's on stage with the shirt from Target. And I'm looking at it. 10 minutes into it, I throw up laughing because the tag is still on the shirt. Levy's doing a sold-out show. He's got his black polyester shirt on and a big tag that says $5.60.
Oh, God. I'm sorry. Sorry for that trip down memory lane, but I hope it was good.
I love what he said. I've never seen
that was definitely good.
So I mean,
you two drunk at a Target.
Well, we understand, of course, that you've since Bob, and actually, I think it was Uncle Joey Diaz, who mentioned that you got on the program, and basically you're completely sober now.
No. Basically, I did stop drinking probably about 2008 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to my doctor, and he goes, that's good you stopped drinking. I get a little nervous when I go on stage. So he goes, well, here, take this. And he had Xanax. And then he put me on 6 milligrams a day I would take. And that really fucked me up. And that was horrible. That stuff is horrible. And that led me to, like, it was a drug that if you were in a good mood, you were in a great mood. But if you were in a horrible mood, if you thought somebody was fucking you, you wanted them dead. And that's what I was going through near the end. And I just had to quit. I couldn't do the show anymore because I was going to lose my mind. And I finally I weaned down from that, but I got off it like 2 years ago. I had to go to rehab to get off it. That's how addicting this shit is. Mm-hmm. And I've been off it, and I'll have a drink. I'll have, a glass of whiskey, but I sip it now. I know how to go out and enjoy myself without getting fucked up. Mm-hmm. And I'll smoke weed for the pain. I do that for when I was in pain from the accident I was in, and that really helped me. And I think most people should be on weed than taking these pain pills and shit like that, because they fuck you up. In the long run, you're going to be fucked up. You totally change. You become very angry, and it wasn't me. And I see it now, and I look back, and I'm like, wow, that really took me for a spin. But it's over now. What are we gonna do?
Good on you, Bob. Sam, you got another question?
Yeah. Benzos are no joke, though. By the way, people just think like Xanax is kind of like, Tylenol. It's not. I mean, it's really not.
No, I mean, I was told by a friend who, when I started taking them, he said, make sure you're not taking more than 1 milligram because you're just you're not going to be functional. Now, I take a half when I feel like I'm going to be in a high stress situation. I can't understand why the doctor would prescribe you 6 milligrams unless you had no tolerance.
Yeah, I would take. Well, I started probably at 1, but for 3 milligrams a day, and then all of a sudden it wears off on you. Yeah. And like I remember taking 3 bars before I went on stage, and I was fine. You understand? Like it basically, I would go over on my 6 milligrams a day, and then make up an excuse why I ran out. And be able to, I dropped it in the sink. I dropped it. Drugs will make you fucking bullshit. And I never bullshitted. And it was like, I'm lying to my doctor now. But yeah, it totally fucks you up. And I don't recommend anybody getting on anything like that, because it's the worst, man. It's the worst withdrawals. And to try to get off it, you can only go to jail or rehab to get the medicine you need to be able to wean off it within, I think I did it in a week, and I did it pretty fast, but it's those places, some of them, that was a real Jesus freak one that I was in, and it was just getting too much, and they don't give you a phone, but at least they knew who I was, and they let me keep the phone in the office, so I went in the office, I was able to make calls. Yeah. But it's a horrible thing, and they want you to stay longer. And I wanted to get out in that week, and they're like, "You're gonna die," and I'm like, "I'm not gonna die now. I know that." And then the first night I come home, I have anxiety so bad I can't move. When you have when you have a withdrawal from that, or it gets into your mind that you're having a withdrawal, you lose it so bad that it feels like if you move your finger, your heart is going to pop out of you. And I remember just laying on the floor. I got down to the floor, and my son came home, and I said, "We got to go to the hospital." And I couldn't get up. So we had, I remember the dogs were in the bedroom with me. So I said, I crawled out into the hallway. He closed the door with the dogs. The cops came in. They helped me outside, got me in an ambulance, got me there. And once they told me I was fine, they go, "There's nothing wrong with you. Your blood pressure's right. Everything's right. Everything's perfect." I was able to calm down. It's the kind of drug that fucking totally fucks with your mind, and your mind controls everything else. And I was awful, but that was the end of it. I mean, I wish I can go and talk to people in schools, kids that never get involved with this shit, because you're going to get hooked on it. There's no doubt. I've never done heroin. I've done coke. I was never hooked on coke. Drinking, I was never hooked on that. I'm never hooked on this. This had you where you couldn't get off it unless you had the right medicine.
Well, with regard to that, Bob, and this kind of goes down a little darker path. Norm Macdonald and maybe Chris Rock were 2 of the only celebrities that actually went on the Stern Show and told them to his face, "Look, Artie's in a bad place with smack, and like you guys are enabling him. You have to do something about this, because there's no consequence." Same with Chris Farley. Lorne Michaels would threaten him, like, "You're going to get kicked off the show, if you don't clean yourself up," and things like that. Did you ever feel, obviously Artie's his own man, he's his own, he makes his own decisions, but did you ever feel that the show was enabling him? And did Artie ever express any like discontent over the show treating him like a fucking junkie for laughs?
No, I mean, I think he looked at it like that was his fault. And here's another thing. You're not going to threaten a junkie by telling him, "We're going to get rid of you." Like, okay, I'll work on the road. You know what I mean? Like, you're telling somebody that can make a huge living no matter what, as long as he shows up, he's going to make a lot of money. So you're not going to be able to do it. And at the beginning, I thought they were enabling, but then I look at it as the point from where I was that you really are, you don't have a say. You don't know what to do. You think you have the ideas of how to get somebody off, but then you're like, "I don't know what to do." And basically that's what happens. Like Howard probably was like, I tried everything, because we're not experts at this. And I put people through that when I was on the Xanax, and, I finally got help, but it's like how it, when I look back at it now, I'm like, they wanted him to get better, for sure. Yeah. They'd probably say, "Hey, maybe if I did it."
thing is, Bob, they were playing the fucking heroin calls that he would call in on, clearly fucked up, and playing them for laughs. And then the song parodies about his drug addiction. And then later on saying, well, we didn't know he was high. I never knew.
And then
washing
bringing
their
out a
fucking hands of him.
Barcalounger and come sleep in the chair.
Exactly.
On the show.
Yeah, that was fucked up. The chair one was the one where I kind of lost it and just said, he's got fucking his mother listens, his family. I said, this is fucking too much. And that's when I said I quit. I did it on one of my shows. And it was just out of control then. It was just out of control. You couldn't, it was too many people there, too many people going through so many other people. And it just wasn't fun for me. And I was like, I can't deal with this anymore. Because I don't, you know what I mean? If I talk to somebody in real life or whatever, I expect to get an answer that, a normal answer. You don't play games with me. And I was getting games played with me. And then they realized that wasn't a good thing to do. But, it's like, it's like, I don't blame Howard for hiring other people, but he should step up and say, you motherfuckers, you know what I mean? If you say something that's totally something I didn't say or what I was thinking, and this person gets mad at me, you're putting my ass on the line. And that's what I think it turned into up there. It definitely turned into that way for me. Mm-hmm. And you have to take your anger out someone that might listen, and he was the only one that would listen.
Well, we're going to definitely address the tirade that you did on Miserable Men, and we have that clips for that. But Sam, you wanted to say.
I think since Bob's bringing this up, you do have clips proving this, by the way, Fillmore, if you want to bring those up.
What, the enabling?
No, not the enabling. How Bob's words were misrepresented and like how it went around.
Yeah. Well, of course, look, this was the story. According to, and I'm just going to read this for the sake of the audience. Oh, yes, I do. I will play them. Mm-hmm. Basically, you were explaining how, for example, just let's use the plugs, for example. You said that originally it was agreed that, well, you didn't worry about money. Just give me 2 plugs a week or 2 plugs a day, whichever it was. And then later on, Gary acts like, why isn't Bob grateful for these plugs? Why isn't Bob? The narrative changed. So I'm going to play the buoy clip so you can hear it for yourself. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
We're saying how we do all the stuff with Bob. This is like a subtle thing, but we give him the plugs and all that sort of stuff. And in the past, Greg Fitzsimmons or Lisa Lampanelli or even Gilbert Gottfried will try to get on the show and they can't get on the show and they'll say, could you please, if you could, plug something? And you've heard us plug it.
Sure.
And always, with the exception of Gilbert, because this isn't his DNA, I will get a thank you call or a thank you email. Hey, that was really nice. Greatly appreciated.
Okay, one sec.
But Bob just doesn't seem grateful. Well, it's almost like you fucking owe me this. Of course you're doing my plugs. And I think the attitude, this has nothing to do with him being booked, by the way. Right. But it's just a feeling I get. Like Bob has never ever said to me, I really appreciate all the plugs I get on the show. It really helps a lot.
My point was, why should you have to be grateful if you agreed to do this? And what's Bowie talking about? Because he's a notorious bullshitter anyway.
Well, I've earned those. That was the deal I made. And that's why, what am I supposed to do? Suck somebody's dick every time I walk in? I'm not like that.
That's what Howard was.
That's what that is up there. Well, no. It's not him. It's everybody else. And I'm not like that, okay? I earned those. You know what I mean? It's like I wrote bits. I fucking always worked on shit. I always was doing shit. Helping out, because I was a team player.
Yeah, this is going to play right into it. I'm going to help you make your case.
Leave with fucking money. All I asked is to promote a fucking show, and it's a slap in the face. And Artie,
and whenever we can't have Bob on, we always say, Fred, give Bob a plug. Sure. I don't know. I've always been very gracious to Bob.
Does he? Does he call in like every week or once every few months? I don't know.
No, but the fact of the matter is, what comedian can you name that we allow Fred to do plugs for when he just has a gig coming up? We do it because we like Bob. That's the only reason. I'm not looking for Bob to do any work for free.
He's not looking for you to do any work for free, but yet you did do shitloads of work for free. And we're going to talk about that with regard to the roast at the very least.
Yeah, the main thing is that we made a deal, and that was it. It's like Howard said, they don't do gigs for me. plugs for me that when I, that weren't in the thing. They don't. I don't call in and say, "Can you do that?" No, I don't. I never did that. I was allowed 2 weeks, two plugs a week, and that's how we did. And we wrote it up. Fred, I sent it to Scott. Scott gave it to Fred, and Fred cut the commercials. That was it. It was just with the regular plugs at the end. That was the deal I made.
Sam?
Well, here's the magic of being able to run the show. People in the audience don't know that. So then he gets to develop this fake narrative, Gary and Howard, pretending like you should be thankful. And I don't do this for anyone, even though that was what the deal was. Now, Artie seemed to be in a rock and a hard place. So after Gary said that and, Howard saying this, it sounds to me like Artie and you had conversations probably privately about how fucked up this was and how it's being presented because he knew the deal and it was coming across wrong on air. So what was that sort of like discrepancy? Like, what did Artie have to say about that?
Well, the whole thing with the plugs came into this is me. I always, if somebody came to me and said, "Oh, I remember." If I recall this perfectly, I remember Shuli just had a baby, and he was like, "I really need to make money this weekend." And I go, "Okay, we got to push, we got to get more." You know what I mean? And pushing was more on the message board, however we can get the fans in. And then I said, "Let me see if I can sit in and just sit in that day, for the news." And Gary said, "No, you were on recently." And I go, "All right, well, why don't you let Shuli sit in?" And he goes, "Why do I got to let Shuli sit in?" I go, he's having a kid, you got a lot of stuff to talk about and that. And then he made it into a big thing when it was just basically me having a conversation with somebody. But that's the show. You understand? I get that. Right. Of course, like with me yelling on the radio that night, that's me. That's me fucking 10 times me. Okay. Right. 20 times me, because I have a show. I know what I'm doing. I know it's going to get on the air. So basically, I'm getting the plug that I wasn't allowed to get for us, but I ended up getting it. I'm talking about me, and everybody would go to Mark's friggin' and we take out ads there, and like it just works.
It's the Streisand effect.
It's a show.
It's the Streisand effect.
It's a show.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, like now. We were thinking, we're like, okay, we have to wrap this up. And to wrap it up was to do something embarrassing that people thought it was embarrassing. And me and Sal washed Gary's feet in a thing. You remember that? That was the end of it. That's how it came around. And to say, okay, everything's cool. But, it's like when something happens, it's radio. It's entertainment as much as it is real. As much as it's real.
Okay, so my question to you is this: if the tirade was partly correct, like it was partly true, but mostly you being, trying to get a pop, was Howard aware it was a bit?
Mm-hmm. It wasn't a bit. It was like here's the whole thing. Like people crying behind scenes, wanting more money.
Yeah.
It turns into a bit because of the fact you got caught, And basically, I knew I was going to open up a can of worms, most likely, unless Howard took my side and went after Gary and said, "Why didn't you have him in?" But that's the chance you take. And, when you want to do great radio, you just go all out with your heart and, you get yourself worked up. And that's what happened all the time. There was never anything that I remember that was set up. I'll tell you that. I don't remember anything being set up.
You're playing career chess, though, in a way. That if you don't know how Howard's going to react, you are playing career chess. You're risking that if he doesn't know.
Yeah, but the whole thing is with Howard. That wasn't going to be that wasn't the end game. You know what I mean? There's no way that was going to be the end game. because of just the way he was. He's not one to just fire you or say you can't come on anymore for something like that. That's entertaining. People love to hear people fight. And that's what made that the greatest show. At that time, there was always fighting. There was always something. And that's what made it great. And that's what people want to hear.
So here's the kind of bullshit you get to hear from the wig himself.
Bob gets a daily plug on this show, and I'm not even sure why. Why does he get a daily plug?
He was doing a lot of stuff with the roast, and I don't know. You know what? I got to tell you something. The squeaky wheel. He pounds away and pounds away and pounds away, and we're like, okay, we'll give. Like he asks for it.
It's okay. So this is Gary throwing you under the bus, and Howard throwing you under the bus when they both know that this was arranged.
It was no. I mean, like Howard could have forgot about that. That was like Tim walking in and go, "This is what Bob wants." Okay, during a break. You understand?
Yeah.
It could have been as simple as that. Okay, so I, you know what I mean? But yeah, Gary know exactly what's going on because it goes through Tim and Gary, and then it goes to Howard. And one of those two would ask him, and they come back and was like, "You got it." And I remember it, you know. And yeah, of course they're going to play it up. Why?
In case people are wondering, sorry, Sam, I'm just going to color it up for a few people because we have listeners from way back from '82 of the show, and then we have listeners that just started in 2010, etc. With regards to Stern, so they're kind of filling in the holes. The basic premise was Chuck Zito had a plug for a charity. I think it was, I can't remember, it was a boxer. I can't remember, maybe it was Arturo Gatti plug or something like that at the time. And it was a huge, long plug. And Wiggy was complaining about it, saying, what's with this fucking 1 minute plug? And, you know, he was just bitching about it. And I don't know where that came from, but that's the context. So he's not going to go after Zito. He's going to go after Bob.
Yeah. Well, that's what it is. And I'm there. And I'm like, I'm a phone call away, and I'm going to pick up because I knew I would wake up and be there with listening to the show at 6 a.m, have a book out, writing shit on AIM with Gary, Sal, Julie, Richard, with any Dan the Song Parody Man, and just go, what about this? What about this? Okay, we're going to do this. And that's how the day was spent.
Sam?
Did the plugs on the show to you become less valuable when you went to Sirius and the audience kind of diminished? Like, I mean, you're going from, I don't know, what was it, like 40 something million people. And then I think Sirius, the Arbitron ratings, I think in like 2007 when they came out, were like 1.5 million a week.
Yeah, total listeners in a week, as opposed to his you know, millions, way more than on terrestrial radio. Because there at one point in 2008, you guys were saying that the shows weren't being well attended, and you were going out of pocket to pay everybody else, and that was during the
shows.
So yeah.
So my question is, do you think that your plugs that now they're complaining about that they're doing, do you think that they were less valuable?
Well, when we first started, here's one thing that anybody that was a Stern listener that didn't come over, they listened somehow, okay? Whether it was on tape or something like that, or they read about this show on marksfriggin.com, and they knew what was coming on. And when we went to a town that Howard was on, those radio people would suck our dicks to come on. So now we're in the town where Howard radio, where his show was on, and we were able to go plug stuff on the morning show there or whatever, the afternoon show. So no, it really didn't. What affected the show was basically the show. I mean, you know,
Tell me about it.
I mean, you went like the comedy shows were like. The first time we went to Boston, we had 1,000 people. Then we had 700. Then we had 500. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I see what the problem is. It's just not. It was more of an evening than I would say. A few of us were comedians. Maybe me, Shuley, and if Florentine was on it, but the rest were just whatever they did.
Yeah,
Then you started going on Opie and Anthony, which I'm a huge fan of theirs, and I still listen to Compound Media with Kumia. I've had a subscription since the beginning. I love him. And
yes, he's great.
The show's obviously like had this running feud, and during the merger, I remember it was Miserable Men, and Tim Sabean said you couldn't have Jim Norton on, and then he changed that, but you couldn't mention Opie and Anthony. Why were they so scared of Opie and Anthony?
You know what? Like I said, too many people. This isn't Howard telling me this. This is somebody else telling me this. And I'm like, look, I said, people are going to come over to us by hearing us with Norton. You know what I mean? More than going over. Because Stern fans are locked in. But people were listening to Miserable Men because we were like something different. You know, we really didn't try not to talk about the show too much. Unless we had somebody from the show on. But it was like it was building momentum really good, and it was stupid. And I just said it's stupid. It's like, what are you worried about? You know, there's nothing to worry about. And but I truthfully wasn't allowed to go on O&A and Howard at the same time. I wasn't allowed to. I was told. I can even remember the thing. You're not part of the family, but you are part of the family. You may not get paid to be one of us, but you're one of us. It was something like that.
Was that from Tim?
Yeah. That was Gary explaining it to me.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And I wonder
that, you know, but
who's explaining it to him.
Well, there's a clip
maybe nobody. That's the whole thing.
There's a clip you have of Gary and Howard discussing this about going on Kid Chris, and and then the clip, you can play it for Bob about this. You're in, but you're not really in. You're in for when I need you, and then if you go on somewhere else, I'm gonna yell at you.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'm going to play that clip, really? But, yeah, let me see. I'll see if which clip it is. Just one sec.
Like, I think.
By the way, I host and making him the roast master was a big thrill for him. Maybe you should take him off that.
I think the point for Bob is if
now
for money,
right?
But,
it is that one.
Bob isn't so loyal to the show. He was on Kid Chris's almost every day.
And I hear through the grapevine that part of what's freaking him out, this is what the guys in the office were telling me, is that now that Kid Chris isn't on, it's freaking him out because he's got less places to be.
Well, that's what I figured.
But I think he figured that Kid Chris was a friend of the show.
No. By the way, we never said to Bob, don't go on there. But if you're so loyal...
Okay, is that true, Bob?
So
Did they say, you can do... Or did they not mention it at all and you figured it was okay?
I was on, when at some points when Kid Chris was in San Antonio, I was on the computer live with the phone. I would listen to it on the phone. I would write for the other acts. I would do 6 to 10 on that, and then listen to Howard later. Okay, I was that was more of my thing that I was doing, and I brought in Kid Chris the first time to be on Howard. He's never been on Howard, and I brought him in one time, and then he was sat in when we had that crazy stripper and the guy
Crystal Clear,
that one with Crystal Clear. That was one of the best things ever. And but yeah, I was with Chris I was with Chris in San Antonio. So how can you say he's not on the air in Philadelphia? When he came to Philadelphia, I was with him right off the bat. Me and him did the first 2 shows live, because the guys weren't there.
But the thing is,
I was the same thing, writing.
Finish the clip, Fillmore.
Well, there's only a little left, but either way, okay, it's only a few seconds.
Stay on our show. But no, I don't have a problem with him doing that. I don't sit in tantrum and go, you did another show.
Okay.
But that sounds like a problem.
That sounds like a huge problem. Like
you're saying that I don't have a problem, but if you're so loyal, you're fucked if either way.
Yeah.
Well, that's what, you know what I mean? It comes out like that on the air, for sure. It's going to come out that way. And when you're listening to it at home, you fucking get mad. You get really mad. But now I can understand it more. I understand what it is, Of course, they wouldn't be talking for 15 minutes about me if it was all nice. It doesn't make any sense at this point now. So I understand that now. But when you're listening to it, I mean, that was a show that your mood would change from fucking the happiest in the fucking world to, oh my God, I can't even go to the store. I feel embarrassed. You know what I mean? That's what happened. That's what happens when you're on shows that level.
Well, okay, fair enough, Bob. But what we're basically saying is we wouldn't exist if there are certain things that just didn't happen over the years that when people listen back and they're listening with more information than they had because he wasn't being completely transparent, that's Howard, that they get angry about. Like, missing Gary's dad's wake because Beth, broke her, she broke a hoof. And, things like that. Or with Artie, the whole enabling thing, or just, mocking his addiction, which, is a serious thing. Now, one thing I wanted to ask you, I know this is a little off topic because I don't know how much time we got with you, but one of our co-hosts and is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful person, Raven, she is a huge Beetlejuice fan. I wanted to ask you what the story, what was it like being on the road with him? Because it sounded on the Mark Spriggan interview, it sounded like you were very protective of him.
Oh yeah, it had to be, because people would try to give him like a whole glass of scotch, and if he drank that, he'd almost die, and I'd have to watch and just everything. And I mean, he was like, when you were with him, like he would stay at my house a lot. We'd watch TV, he'd cook, he'd barbecue, he'd barbecue at my old house and go swimming with my son when he was young, and just play catch with him on the other side of the pool. Aww. And he said, "You be nice to your dad. He's a good man." You know what I mean? And I remember when Beetlejuice, like he never got paid actually.
No.
I would give the check to his management, or what's the name that was managing him?
Sean?
Before what's his name? Before Sean died. No, Sean would get it, and then and what's the name? I forget her name now, but they were together, and either one would pick him up and I'd give him the check. And Beetlejuice would be like, "How come I'm not getting?" Because you see everybody getting paid,
Yeah.
And I said, "We'll figure something out." And I go, "You got a headshot or something?" And we got like pictures online, and I brought them to a place, and I made like 100 copies. And I go, "You're going to sell these after the show for $20 each. And that's all your money." And he's like, "You got it." And, and he would just, he would go, "Yeah." They go, "How much for a picture?" He'd go, $5. I go, "No, it's 20 because he'd be right next to me." And he would have he would pull out a wad of money in the room, like, like $700. And it'd be like, "Yeah, did pretty good." And like, if he wanted to go out and buy a new cell phone or fucking batteries or Walkmans or whatever, the headphones he would buy them almost every time. And whatever he wanted to spend his money on, that's up to him, That's his money. And if he wants to, and he always wanted to feel like a man. And that's why, he would come home. I remember like after a show, he'd come in the room and he'd come in with this big bag. And I go, "What's that?" He goes, "I got us some Chinese food." And he must have bought, for me and him, about $100 worth of Chinese food back then.
Wow. We love Beetlejuice, actually. We're happy he's not doing the show anymore because they never paid him anyway. And I think he's making money on, is it TikTok, Sam?
He's making money on TikTok and Cameo, and he's making such a good living that he doesn't need the show. He won't return their calls.
Yep.
Really? See, I don't know. I haven't talked to him in 10 years, and I do miss him so much. I mean, I was enthralled by him. Like, I mean, when we hung out, it was just a different him. We'd watch a movie on TV, and he's like, "Oh, I can't believe he did that to that girl. That ain't right," But he knew what was going on. He was a lot smarter than people thought. It's the way that you talk to him to get out the knowledge from him. And I thought he was the most unique person I ever met in my life. And there's never going to be somebody like him again. I mean, there's no way. I mean, that motherfucker is fun.
Yeah.
Another person. So, yeah, sorry, Fillmore, for sure. Yucco the Clown, you guys did The Meanest Listener. and he was obviously like a regular part of the show. I just wanted to ask this because to me, he's such an interesting character, kind of like a sad life, but super funny. Obviously, you could never have him on anything anymore because of, today's culture is just goddamn ridiculous. But did he have any similar gripes of like other people on the show about, I'm doing stuff for the show. Should I be getting paid? What was their setup with Yucco? How did that all work out? And did you guys do more than like the Meanest Listener thing together? You did more shows or?
Yeah. I mean, basically, okay, the Meanest Listener thing, it was $25,000 and a new truck, right? And it was coming down to the end. And I see him in the back and I go, hey, me or you are going to win this. I go, so what do you say we just split it? You know what I mean? Whoever wins.
Yeah.
And I remember he had me sign something. I go, okay. And I signed it. And that's why I was so comfortable. I was so calm. Like, it didn't matter who won. But, like, he always said, I wanted that title, But to see Yucco in that clown outfit, that was not him at all. And that was the furthest thing from Yucco in the world. Yucco was the nicest guy in the world, but he was quiet, he was shy, and but when he would put that thing on, he'd scare you. He'd scare you with that shit on. Off it, not at all. You know what I mean? You'd be like, "Who's this little fuck?" But when he had that on, he played that so perfectly. I've never seen anything like that. That somebody can just go into character like that. He started coming on the road with us, and he got paid. He made money on the road, and we started selling stuff after the shows and stuff like that, and it was more money.
Yeah, you guys did a benefit. Now you guys did a benefit for his parents' house, I believe, at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. Now he's. I think he's doing cartoons. I'm not. You know what I mean? When you leave the show, you kind of leave the show. That's the way it is,
I was going to ask you, Bob.
Get in trouble talking to you.
Well, that was going to be the point. Did you ever hear overtly, or get a text message from Richard or Sal saying, "Look, we love you, but we can't have anything to do with you. We're under orders." Anything like that?
More like, I don't want to lose my job, something like that. Which I didn't understand at the point because of the fact that when I have somebody's side and I'm friends with somebody, I'll take a bullet with them, and whether if I told the truth, I'd lose my job. So it's like, okay, whatever, and I guess that's how it is in the world. I don't know. I didn't come from that, so it was shocking to me.
So, I have a roast-related question. There's a couple of roast questions, but when they started, you said in an interview that they were originally supposed to be a separate show. My question, first, where that's concerned, is how did they expect to have a separate show for the roast if they weren't going to pay any of the performers?
Well, it was just a show that we were going to have on there, and it was early. It was everybody coming up with stuff and just putting it together, and it was going to be on Howard 101. We were going to tape it. We were going to have a live audience and all that stuff. We were all ready to do it. And 2 days before, I get a call. Howard wants to do it live on the air, and I was like,
"That's organized."
And they're like, "There is no but. There is no but." But it was a great move, and I just wish that they stayed in the order I had it in. You know what I mean? I wanted to do Ralph. I wanted to do Scott next, but I think we did Ralph. We did somebody else after Ralph. I forget who it was.
Maybe Ronnie.
I'm thinking it was Ronnie, but I wanted to go Ronnie, Scott, because Scott has so many things you can hit him with, and it would have been great. But then Daniel Carver came up, and I was like, this is not going to work because you can't roast a racist.
Well, this is the thing. The Chevy Chase Comedy Central roast proves that if the person's not likable, it's never going to work. It's always better if it's somebody that people like. And so my question to you regarding the Daniel Carver roast, and I am going to play your thoughts on the wrap-up show about it, but was that idea from Howard and Gary? was that their move? Like, let's do Daniel Carver. Was that their push for sure?
Well, it was. I remember sitting in Tim's office, and it was more like, we will get national newspaper. This will get written all over the place. And I go, but this ain't going to work. You know what I mean? But it was like, at the beginning, the promotion was huge, and if you got extra promotion to have something that people are paying for, that helps out the product. And I understood that, but I understood that it wasn't going to work.
Sam?
I have a really hard time believing people that are in this entertainment business who realize a roast it's an honoring. That's what a roast is. That's why it works. So the person that you're roasting, you genuinely love. That's why Rickles was so great at it. That's why all the best roasts work, because it's an honoring with humor and some slams and really good ones.
It should
and
be
also the
done
people
by
on the
friends.
dais. It's a great, cyclical thing. When you roast Daniel Carver, a racist, you're honoring a racist? I mean, because that's essentially what a roast is. It's not going to be funny. So I don't know. I don't know how all these adults in show business ever thought this was a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely didn't think so, especially when they said, I want like a lot of black comedians. And I'm like, okay, well, how many do we really have on the show right now? And basically, I had to find comedians that did not know the Howard Stern show on a daily thing. You know what I mean? They didn't know what was going on. They didn't know. I had to explain he's a KKK guy, and that's it. And now they're just going to you white piece of shit, and that's it. And he's just sitting there. And I remember after the roast, he goes, thanks, Bob. That was entertaining. I had a fun time. And he, every time somebody was getting mad at him that was black, he would just use the N-word on him at the end, and he just bury it with that. And there was no way you can get to him. And like most of the people that knew him wasn't on it.
Artie told a story about how I think Earthquake might have been late coming in, and Daniel just said something like, "Told you." I mean,
no, he said, you know what he said? He said typical N-word.
Yeah.
Oh, for fuck's
That's what he said.
So here's your thought.
That's what he said, but you can't beat him.
Here's your clip on that.
Now, Bob, what do you mean that they changed up on?
Well, I definitely thought it was too early to do Daniel. I thought we should have done Scott because he's a likable guy, and the roast, you want to fuck with people. You want to have a good time.
And the discussion about that was, you did Ralph, you did Ronnie, you do Scott. It's all the same stuff. It's an inside guy. It's the same crap.
No, it's not.
Like even Artie said, you get 5 guys, 6 guys to roast Scott, you could pretty much write the jokes.
Yeah, but the thing is that every one of those people he mentioned have a ton of shit you could talk about and write about. Daniel, no one really knew that much about Daniel outside of a few people.
And the only
reason why the whole thing was that with Scott, there was probably 10 things.
Yeah.
And that's the audience you're going for. So of course you want to do somebody from the show. It just made sense. And you can't try to argue with me on the point, which he was trying to do, that the audience got tired of it. No, I had to get the audience back after that. And I had to go to Gary next. And then I went to Artie, and it just fucked up the whole order. I wanted to do Sal and Richard in a love chair. That was my thing, to do them together on a love swing.
Yeah.
So what went into planning those roasts?
Well, it was basically making phone calls. Gary would make some phone calls. I'd make some phone calls. And then like everybody up there would write, and they would be like, I got this, or I'm working on this. What can I do here? How can I make this better? And then we go over it. And then if somebody said, well, I got a joke like that, I'd go, I'll take it out. I don't care. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't, I'm just hosting it. I don't, it was for me to try to get everyone to be able to shine. So I would go over and say, here, do this joke, do this. And it works like that because you're working as a team. And it was good. I mean, it could have went further, but I don't even know why it stopped at a certain point. Maybe that was when the end came. I guess.
I'm pretty sure it's because Beth got shrapnel in the roast, a lot of it from the Sal joke, and that's one of the questions I had to ask you. Was there ever any blowback from after the roasts in terms of you shouldn't say that, don't go after that person? I mean, comedians know who not to go after, but Sal went after anybody, and Gilbert certainly would have.
Well, it was great for us.
Yeah, I mean, Sal was easy to, if he said something, go, yeah, I'd do it, and he'd do it. Because it was easy, everybody would agree, and he would do it, and that was the funny part of it too, and we'd all cringe. Yeah, I mean, truthfully, Beth isn't part of the show. You know what I mean? You can go after her, but it's like go after Howard. You know what I mean? Go after. That's what people want to hear. But if you get the little shot, a little shot or a big shot, it's okay. It's okay too, and you can't get mad. But I guess people would say, hey, he's the big guy. What are you doing? Like other people. But I don't remember Howard ever saying anything. But there was people saying, you shouldn't do that. But it's like there's no rules there. That's what I was told. There was no rules. Let's go. Let's do it. Funny.
Sam,
we used to like it when it was no rules. Now it's just garbage. Was there a roast that you liked the best?
I thought Gary's was really good. Robin's was really. We did Robin, right?
No,
I remember Robin was always part. Okay, no, we didn't do Robin.
Part of it, but she always got shrapnel.
She got it big time every time. That's what it was. I remember me and Artie going in, and he goes, "Poor Robin." I forget where we were sitting, and he's like, "She gets fucking murdered every show," and she did. And that's why I thought we roasted her, but no, we stopped after Artie. And what the next hardest one that I thought was going to be, that was going to be impossible to roast, was going to be Fred. I really thought Fred would be impossible to roast.
Why?
Because you can't get to him. You can't get any emotion. You can't get emotion out of him. You're not going to get any emotion out of him.
Oh, you can. It depends what you tell him.
Yeah, but the whole thing is that took Howard years to get that out of him. When Howard finally found the shit that would get to him, it took him years to get that. And Fred will just sit there, cool, boom, and then rip us apart. So the jokes wouldn't go over, you'd run out. There wasn't a lot, I knew that he liked music. We talked music. We talked having kids. Like during the breaks, we talked about stuff like that, just normal stuff. So I really didn't know too much about him. And I don't think a lot of other people that would have been roasting him would have been able to take him apart in a way that, he doesn't put himself out there as much.
DePaulo was an absolute monster on that Artie roast. I think his one that killed me was, what's the best thing about Robin's boat is that it has a stern that she doesn't have to pretend is funny. The Artie roast was legendary, and it was the only one I think you guys filmed at night, and everybody was drinking. Is that correct?
Yeah. Oh yeah, everybody was. We realized Howard realized that was a bad idea, but a good idea at the same time. I remember Richard was loaded, and I remember I was throwing up in the garbage can because he was picking his nose and putting it up in front of me, and I was throwing up. And it was like, we're in a studio. We're in a millions of dollars studio, and we're acting like fucking frat boys, and it was out of control. But it was unbelievable. It was like, when I look back at it now, when I listen to the tapes, when I watch it on YouTube with my wife, I'm like, man, we were fucking doing the best shit. Maybe that wasn't the biggest years in Stern. Maybe it was with Billy West and all that shit. But I'll tell you what, if this wasn't the best, we gave it a run for the money in those fucking 10 years. There's no doubt about that, because Sam? I know that was great radio every day.
As a super fan, they're just two different entities, and I didn't grow up in I didn't listen to it in the early 90s. So Artie era was my era, and even listening to the Jackie stuff back with the Billy West and the Marge shot shit and everything else, and the OJ trial going on. I mean, it's all amazing each era, but I do have to say, I love your guys the best. I mean, what am I going to say? It's the best. What was the genuine feeling surrounding like when Jackie came back for, I think it was the Gary roast. Was that weird at all? Was there a vibe?
No.
That's
you know
good.
what? I thought it was great. I knew Jackie because when I started doing comedy, he was the host of the open mic and that. And then, when I got on the show, he wasn't there. But it's a great thing. It's a great thing for the audience. And when he had his the Joke Land show, whatever it was, on Howard 101. It was just a smart move, Hey, fucking forget about shit. A lot of people can't forget about shit. I'm one that forgets about it. You know what I mean? I was mad for a long time, a long enough time, I would say. But right now, I could give. It was the best time. It was the best time you could have being an entertainer for me. That and the Kid Chris show. Was the best, you know what I mean? And now I have the Cumia show. I can do whatever the fuck I want now. I'm doing my own show, a podcast now. But I'm coming back. I got back from the accident. I've been out for 4 years, basically, working on shit. I had my neck surgery. I'm feeling great. I'm ready to come back huge again. And that's my thing. My thing was either do that or retire. And I talked to my wife and I said, look, you can just stay home and I can go out there and, I go, if that's what you want to do and you want me to do it, I want to do it. And she goes, yeah, I want you to do it. I love what you do, and I'm a different person now. I'm just, I don't need everything, whether it was drugs, alcohol, women. Yeah. I don't need everything anymore.
I have a question. Is the fridge still stocked with blue cheese?
No. I don't even like blue cheese, really. That's why I would do it. But
those T-shirts you made, you had these T-shirts. They were amazing. It was like a platter. It looks like a platter, and there was a butt on it, and you're like standing above it.
Oh,
I mean,
you know who did that?
Who?
That was Mike Morse did that. Mike Morse. Wow. I would say, can you draw this? And if you just gave him the idea, boom, it was there. Like he was doing my CDs, my I Hate People shirts in like 1998, 99 or something before I went on there. That I remember. I still have. Holy shit! You're gonna laugh. Look, I can show you because we're watching this. Look at this right here. Here it is.
That's it. That's the one.
You know what?
Can you know what
this is? This is the last.
Can you send a picture of it later on so I can use it? We don't use video, but I do make like a montage of videos and stuff to help people along on the YouTube channel. The podcast just uses audio though.
Yeah, because it says Morse on the bottom. Let me see the date. It's ripped up a little bit, but it says 2002, and it's signed by me because of the fact this is the last one. I found it. And it's a mouse pad.
Yeah,
that's what it is. And it says "I love Heine," and it says "God Heine" on top. And I have a knife and fork in my hand, and it's right next to me. Can you believe that? Like it was in another room, and I found it in a drawer, and I'm like, this is like. I go, God, you just start laughing when you think of the memories.
Yeah.
Bob, with like, wet ass pussy being a single, I think you can start selling those on T-shirts again. You can make a killing.
Sure, absolutely. Put it on TeePublic and go nuts.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm ready to go back and do what we do online, I know what people want. So that's what I'm trying to do with the one show. I'll be adding more shows. I'm working with Pat Dixon too. But I can do so many shows because I love radio and I want to build a studio. I have a little bit of studio, but we never finish it here. But we're probably moving to Florida, and I'm going to have a guy come down and build me a studio in the house. And I told Pat Dixon, I said, come on, man, let's move. And he's like, sounds good to me, because New York City ain't going to come back for a long time. And that was the one reason he moved there.
Yeah,
to do comedy there, and he's on the Cumia show, but he can do that from anywhere. Mm-hmm. And so it's like I want to go to Florida, kind of take over the comedy world down there. I'll be able to, just do the shows myself, full wall, all of it, and put like the best comedians in, because I think people deserve to see the best comedians instead of the horse shit that they see a lot of times. So that's my plan. And I'm talking to some of my favorite comedians and saying, hey, would you like to be part of this? And it could be pretty amazing.
I know your legendary stories with Jim are just hysterical.
Yeah.
Can you please explain the term the Load Warriors and tell at least one story of road pussy?
We were, I used to be a big wrestling fan. So, I still am, I guess. So, but I just said the Load Warriors, and I go, we're the Legion of Goo, because they were the Legion of Doom, and like we would go, like we had everything set up. It was like if we went to a strip club, we'd call up and say, what time did the last dances go on, right? And then we'd go there like 10 minutes before, so we were new to everybody, to the girls. And we'd get drinks, and then they would close up, and then we go, what are you doing? We had rum or something. We had beers. We had them in a bathtub on ice and that. And what we do is, he's like, we got to get rid of these chairs. And I'm like, what do you mean get rid of it? And we just started, we take the table and the chairs and put them on the balcony or in front of the door, like out in the hallway. And where the TV was, where you can sit on the wood, we put our luggage up there. So when they got there, they had to sit on the bed. So we didn't have to lord them over to the bed after a half hour or something like that. And we would never take them out to eat, because the night was over, because they would start sobering up and thinking maybe they should go home and that stuff. And then we would walk them through the lobby of the hotel to the front desk and say goodbye. And the guy, I remember one time, this guy seen us doing this every night, and he thought we were like we were like the Beatles and that, but we would do that so they never said that something happened, because we had somebody to say it. That no, they left. The girl left, and she was happy and whatever. And the last night, we're at this place, and I'm looking for Jim, and I look up and I see him with this big grin on his face, and I thought he was like standing next to a cigarette machine, but it was a fat chick. And then we ended up bringing her back to the room, and he's laying in bed with her, and the lights are off, and then we start making the train noise, choo 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 choo, and it was the funniest thing. And in the morning, he probably did the funniest thing I ever seen in my life. We couldn't walk her through the front door because the guy thought we were fucking, gods, right?
Right.
So Jim pulled the car around. We got her out the side. He got her in the car, and he had her duck for like the first 5 miles. So nobody's seen her, because the guy... It was just like it was yesterday. Now I'm thinking, like I lost like certain memory from the car accident, but a lot of it I do remember the magic. I do remember everything. Like everything that I was telling you guys, you had it on tape, and I didn't even know you had it on tape. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I basically answered it the same way that I did today than I did back then. And so, like, I kind of remember those things, but I kind of blanked out of what years they are, and like 2 years before the accident.
Right.
I had no idea when I got divorced. When it was weird, I had to ask, or when this happened. It was like weird to come back to that. But now my memories, like, I'm able to write and create so much better now, because it's like my mind has been refreshed. And that's how I feel. And it's just like an amazing, like, I'm looking forward to it, because I've been through 4 years of hell, and I'm so ready to come back and take the world by storm.
Go ahead, Sam.
As a fan, we're ready and starving for stuff like that. I mean, there's a reason why I'm subscribed to, certain podcasts or listen to certain things that are just funny, just just to be funny. I miss that, and I miss storytelling. It's such a lost art now.
Oh yeah, I mean that's why like I started doing Levy Land again, and it's different now. I have Rob Soul on it and Chris Abels, and we just go in there, we smoke a little weed, we have a few ideas, and I go, something will happen. I go, that's what we're doing. We're starting with that. You ready? Here we go. And if you listen to it, it's on syndicateradio.tv, and we did 3 shows. The third one went out today, so we're all new at this shit. But people are really liking it, you know, and I'm having a ball. I'm really having a ball, and I'm going to do, I'll probably do another show with Joe Conti and John Kensel. We were doing shows, and then Pat Dixon wants to get into more taping, and we'll see what we can do with our show to get it out there. Maybe Kumi will want it, or somebody will want it, and whatever. It doesn't matter, because like when I'm with Pat Dixon, I've never worked with somebody on a brilliant mode like that we get each other and we can just talk about anything, and it just goes on forever, and we move in and out, come back and forth, move on to something else. And it's just, I've never clicked with somebody like him.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing I got to give one thing I have to absolutely say that Artie never, when he was on the show and he talked about you, he always talked about how incredibly fluid you were in front of a crowd, meaning it sounded more like, was crowd work more your thing? Were you more into just like, it wasn't just memorize bit. It was how much of it was crowd work and how much of it was, set up jokes?
I mean, it all depends on, if you're hitting. I mean, like I always try to go up there and just figure them out right there. Like, or maybe start off with one thing and whatever pop it gets. And I'm like, all right, I got them. I can do anything. And basically now I just write things, whatever's happened in my life, I'll go up there with that right up to the beginning and start a show for 5 minutes. And it's working, and everything is just coming to me. And it's amazing. I mean, I miss Artie. I do. I haven't seen him or talked to him. I didn't talk to him in over a year, I guess.
Yeah.
And but I just hope he's doing well. But it just sucks.
With regards to him, actually, I meant to ask you, Bob. We're basically on his side. We're on his side, and we didn't like other websites and other YouTube channels going on talking about his, he's back in jail. When we did a search, we looked up all the databases and looked up, if he was incarcerated, and stop saying this shit if it isn't true. Let the guy alone, and when he's ready to come out and talk, he will. And if you don't hear from him, it's a good thing. I mean, it really is.
It totally is a good thing. It is. And like, if he was in jail, you would know about it. And like he said, I think he said he had anxiety really bad. I know what it was like when I got off at Xanax. I had anxiety so bad. It took me from December till the end of April to figure out how I was letting it into me and how to block it out. And like if I wanted to get anxiety, I can bring it on myself, but I can also close it right off. And I was able to do that. I go, there has to be an answer to this. And I just thought of everything that basically, and it's all simple shit.
Yeah.
It's basically, as soon as it comes into your mind and you start panicking, you have to just close it off. It's like at night when you go to sleep and your mind just goes over about everything. Just take it away. Whatever problems are, there is no problems, If there's something you can't do anything about, there's nothing you can do about. Why worry about it? And I just live life like, hey man, everything's cool. Everything's cool. And if I start getting anxiety, I just go, hey, I'm on the beach right now, and I can hear the waves coming in, and it just changes everything, and you get away from it.
That's a great perspective. Sam?
That's a wonderful, healthy perspective. And that's a lot of the reason why, like other shows speculating on Artie's sobriety, we would never do that, and never do that for a reason, because anything to bring on that sort of feeling, because as an addict, he might have that, and seeing that speculation, why would you want to cause him any more pain than he's already in? It's just unnecessary.
Because people do that. You see that people do that. I see that people do that. That when he's away and he's getting better, they're ripping him apart. Then he comes back and they're like, "I'm rooting for you." Yeah, and I see it, and I'm like, oh my God, they're so full of shit. These fucks, they're such phonies, you know. But the whole thing is that the way I look at it, if they didn't tell him in court, if you test again, you're going to jail, and you're going to be there for a while, he would have never got clean. He could be dead right now, okay? Because he was starting to spiral at the end, and it was like I got him into the one rehab. I got him in there. He did great. I picked him up. It was like him again. And then he fell. And you fall. And people, what about rehab is that when somebody's like, I got 90 days clean, and all of a sudden they fuck up, and they fucking beat the hell out of themselves because they have to go back to a number. There's no reason to count a day.
Right.
All you got to do is just don't fucking do it, because you're putting too much pressure on yourself to keep that number going. And if you do fall back, you have one day, you fucking start all over again. You don't have to fucking make a big deal out of it and feel like a loser. Everybody, you know, it's the hardest fucking thing. Can you imagine like if you drank just a few drinks, or you smoked weed or did anything, and you did that just by having a drink, you would go back to jail? How fucked up that is. You know what I mean?
It's it's such our society is completely misguided in how they treat it. But that's another conversation for another podcast we should have.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
I've got only one other question, and then I got one more clip I'd like to play for you. That's it's only 2 minutes, but I think you'll really enjoy it. And then Sam?
I'm going to ask one question before yours, because yours is going to go with a question and a clip. Okay.
Yep.
So, all right. Ralph was always injected and handsomely paid for what seems like a no-show job to dress Howard like a skater boy teenager. Basically, he was a gas station attendant, picked up to do makeup, picked up to be a stylist, and somehow, for how little Howard pays everyone else, Ralph is always handsomely rewarded and given jobs. What the fuck is the deal with that relationship?
We know what we think.
I actually think that Howard likes to have him around. I think that he might feel bad for him. It's almost like having a woman around and you buy her a nice dress or something like that, you know?
Okay.
But it's
See
like,
how you just said,
I don't think it's nothing gay or anything.
Okay. Well, you said you feel bad. You think Howard feels bad for him. Now I'm going to ask you, how many people does Howard feel bad for?
I really thought that he felt bad for JD. I really thought I don't know why he never gave him more money, but JD did a lot of work and he loved him. But I don't really know what money was. Like, it wasn't my business. I just know from what I heard. But but he loved him. But you got to, truthfully, you have to look at it as a thing. What would you do if you didn't have the show? And that's the thing. It's like,
what do you think?
Some people would do it for nothing.
So my question is, what do you think of that relationship? Don't you think it's strange?
With Ralph and Howard? Yeah, I mean, I just think that I think he can really trust Ralph. I really think that that's probably, like, I don't think many other people would feel like they can trust Ralph, but I think Howard does.
Oh, no shit.
And that's why he's there. Yeah. I mean, like anyone else would be like, I don't trust that motherfucker. I wouldn't tell. Yeah.
Well, okay. Just one real quick, because we know we did 9 hours on the bro fight. And that was all brought on by this girl, Jen, that you got in touch with. And you told people in an interview that you did it to fuck with Artie, basically.
Well, I was getting him back. I wrote that on Stern Fan Network. Yeah, because of the fact that he did something to me. And I said, I'm going to get him back. And that was my fucking thing to get him back.
So my question was, did you ever get any blowback from Artie after the fact when you were on the road or you saw him next time? Did he ever say, "You fucking cocksucker, how could you, look what you did"?
No, you know what? Nothing. I probably drove him home that day. If I was up there, I took him home. Even when he abused me on the wrap-up show, he basically said, I came up with an idea. Stay out. I'm going to do something. I came in and he ripped me apart totally. And then we listened on the way home. And I said it was the most brilliant thing I ever heard because I wrote down a few things when I was sitting there. And he goes, I just went off on you for 10 minutes. We listened to it on the way home. That's what it was. You're done with work. You understand? That was work. That was work. And I probably drove him home. No, maybe not because I had to drop her off somewhere. But but most of the time, if I was there by myself, I would drive him home, right into Hoboken on the way home, and then we'd either go get something to eat or whatever, and or I just go right back down onto the turnpike. But we never argued over anything. We never argued over anything from the show. If we argued on the show about the show, but it was like. It was like, stop it. You know what I mean? We're like brothers. You know what I mean? What the fuck? Shut the fuck up. And we both shut the fuck up.
I love that you love the rant. That makes me so happy.
Well, I'm going to play you one last clip, Bob, and it'll have to break it up a little bit. I think it's already talking about how brilliant you are, but also talking about how regular life details are a little beyond you.
Okay.
One sec.
He says, I want to change my flight to the 1 p.m. flight you guys are on so I could sleep late. And I said, great, that's great. Got to come on the flight. The more the merrier. I said, you should do that. He goes, what do I do? Bob's 45, on the road forever. He wants to change his flight. He goes, what do I do? I go, what airline are you on? Continental. I said, okay. And then he goes, well, what do I do? Still doesn't know what to do. I said, call Continental.
Okay, here we go.
And then there's a pause. He goes, okay. And then he goes, what do I say? And I pause in amazement. And I say, well, listen, tell them what you want to have happen. In other words, you have a flight on Continental that you want to change. You got Continental on the phone now. What do you think you should say? You should say you want to have the flight change. You should.
Okay, so here we go. It's only a little bit left.
Say, I need my house painted. You shouldn't say my kid has the runs. You shouldn't say my wife is fucking other guys. They don't care about that. They change your flight. So he then looks puzzled for another 10 minutes and goes, so what do I do again? And I said, Bob, they're trained to handle retards. Like, in other words, if you get somebody on the phone, if you could just put together this thought, like, change flight.
Okay, almost done.
Just trained to punch in the computer, okay, you have an IQ of 40. This is how I deal with this person. And she'll somehow, even if you have an IQ of 40, get you to change the flight. He was so confused and barreled over by this that he never changed the flight. He stayed up all night after the 6 a.m. flight. He had a hard time apologizing, John. The man is almost retarded.
This might be the only time we're playing a clip to a guest that's in disparaging them, and we don't feel it's out of the question. We don't think it's a problem.
It's not. I'm dying laughing here. Oh my God, my jaw hurts because it's like, here's the whole thing. It's like I'm one of those people that somebody would do it for me, like my wife would do it. Like if I was not married so many times, I would never know how to do anything because I finally started going out to this. I tell my wife the other day, I'm going to go to the store and get cigarettes. And she goes, that's good you're going out to get cigarettes. Because I would send her out. You understand? Like there's nothing like, you know what I mean? And to make me a flight, we have to go this time. We have to go this time. And they would, and that's how it was. I was never, I would focus on what I had to do, not how to get there or whatever. And that's why it was always good to have some. I had no idea how to do it. And when I first started going out with Artie, I I didn't fucking. It was different. And he's like, "You've been on the road all these years. You don't know what the fuck to do." And I was like, "No, it's like kind of done for me." And somebody in the club picks me up, puts me to a hotel, and then they get me at the hotel, bring me to the club, bring me to the airport. I get on a plane, and I come home.
You're a passenger. You're a passenger through life, Bob.
Bob does have a point.
Yes, I really am.
Well, listen, Bob, I want to thank you so much for agreeing to be part of our show. As soon as it's completely edited and what have you and ready for release, I'm going to send you a link, and we wish you all the best, and we'd love to talk to you again sometime. Sam, do you have anything before I wrap it up?
Please come to Helium Comedy Club in Buffalo. Like, a lot of comics come there. Gilbert comes there often, and I would really love for you to come. Buffalo's a great stern town, and they know you, and they would totally come out.
I know it was a wonderful place when we went there a lot of times. No, definitely. Once everything starts opening up, I don't want to go half-ass. I want everything to open up fully before I start hitting the road again. But I'm hitting everywhere.
I'd say bring Florentine with you, but after that story, I'm not sure. I'm gonna text him after this and be like, "What in the flying?" Fuck is that?
I hear Buffalo.
That was so long ago.
I'm teasing. I'm teasing. We're
I hear Buffalo. I hear Buffalo has great. I hear Buffalo has great shrimp.
Shrimp, because that's how we said it in New York. Yeah, I'm gonna get some shrimp. And then Howard's like, "I'm from New York. I don't say it like that."
We got to get Bob to say Led Zeppelin. Anyway, thank you so much, Bob. We love you. And any plugs or websites
thank you, guys.
you want to send me, I'll put them. I'll make sure there's a link in the video when it's on.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. This was a lot of fun. Really was.
Cheers, man. Take care. Take it easy.
Take care. You guys have a great night.
Cheers, brother.
Okay? And I'm going to fly out there next week, and I'm going to straighten your ass out. And I'm going to make sure that you really get it. I'm going to make sure that you know what a rude, thoughtless little pig you really are. Do you understand? You're a rude, thoughtless pig. So be ready on Friday the 20th, because I'm coming out there. I'm going to tell you this, then I'm going to turn around. I'm going to fly right back home. You are a rude, thoughtless pig.